Hi everyone, I'm Paul Robinson from Sony PlayStation, and I'm going to talk about returning errors from an API within LLVM. My example has a pretty basic specification. If you have two integers, x and y, and x happens to be an exact multiple of y, then return that multiple. Of course, this is an incomplete specification. I've been doing software for over 40 years. I promise you there are no complete specifications. But it's what we have. But this is okay because this gives us scope to exercise our creativity. And in this case, we get to make choices about error handling. We can pretend that there aren't any errors. This is possibly not the best choice. If x isn't an exact multiple of y, then you'll get a number back anyway. So that will look to the caller just like a real valid result. And if the caller passes in 0 for y, you get undefined behavior, which might crash the program and make your users unhappy. If you learned C++ in a class in school, they taught you to throw an exception. This doesn't work because LLVM doesn't allow exception handling. So, first choice, use an in-band value. This is actually very common if you're returning a pointer. Null pointer is the obvious in-band value that means that didn't work. For our specification, there are no in-band values that can't be also valid results. There are slides for what the caller does. I can't talk about them. I don't have time for that. We can return a bool that says yes or no. And then the actual result comes back in a different parameter. If the caller doesn't need to know why it didn't work, yeah, that's okay. Might be a little bit inconvenient to handle that extra parameter. You can package the return result and the bool into a std optional, which functionally is equivalent to the previous example, but might be a little more convenient. Very common idiom for non-pointer types within LLVM. There's this class error or. This finally you get to the point where you could tell the caller why something happened wrong. It can with a std error code, which is basically the C++ version of error no. So as long as your possible error types fall into the categories that are provided by std error code, you're good. I will caution people that error or and the class error have absolutely nothing to do with each other. I consider this a big naming fail, but don't blame me, it was like that when I found it. Speaking of error, this lets you return all kinds of status values. You can inherit from this subclass that return basically arbitrary amounts of information about the error. And the other nice thing about error is that it forces the caller to check the return value. You can't just assign it into a value and then just not look at it. And finally, we have expected, which is the thing that you might expect error or to be, but it packages the result with an LLVM error and with all of the same characteristics. You actually have to check the return value to see whether you have an error. And here's a handy, nice little table that I put together to let you pick which of these options you might want to use. I will say that I decided to do this talk because I was trying to figure out how to return an error from an API, and there was not one place that had all of the options together. So now there is. Thank you very much.